It's what I know.
Oh man, well, why don't we start in the East? There are only a couple of teams remaining in the Eastern Conference, and it should be the easiest to get through because I think really there are two groups of teams. It's positions 5 through 10, so 6 teams total. Miami, Orlando, Nashville, Columbus, Chicago, and Red Bull. Realistically, all but one of them are going to make it. And realistically, the only two that are fighting for not being in there are Chicago and Red Bull. That being said, anyone from 5 to 8 who are currently in the playoffs could either make it into the home play in game or be knocked out and put into the play in game, or even by a miraculous change of events, not make it. So I think we start top to bottom, and we'll go ahead and talk about Miami first. They are on 52 points with 6 games still to go as they catch up from all the other tournaments they've been playing in. One of which is actually happening the day that this is posted, I believe. I believe they play this Wednesday, which is really cool. They are currently a sneaky favorite to be in the Shield conversation at the end of the day, and some are putting them as favorites. They can finish with a possible 70 points, which is still crazy. However, they're also just a few losses away from ending up in a play-in game spot. Here's what their last 6 look like. They're away to New York City. They're away to Toronto. They get Chicago at home, New England at home, Atlanta at home, and then they go to Nashville to finish the season. We've done this before. For those of you who are new here, essentially, we're just going to give our thoughts on how these games are going to finish up. And then we are going to tally it up at the end and talk about what our end of the year playoff scenario looks like. So, Connor, give it to me. And if you want to give some feedback, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, so I think Miami's got a relatively favorable schedule towards the end here. 4 out of the 6 teams they're playing against are not making the playoffs. I think most of them have been eliminated already. Some will be eliminated soon. I like to think, as much as I do think Mascherano is not the best coach for them, that they have enough talent in this team to be able to beat the bottom dwellers of the Eastern Conference. So, with that being said, I have them getting 13 points out of their last 6 games to finish off the season on 65 points. I will not
Okay.
spoil yet where that finishes in the standings for me, but that's how I see them finishing it out. I don't know if you want me to go game
Yeah,
by
tell
game.
me tell me game by game. Give me game by game.
All right, I've got them. I got them winning at home against NYC, winning at Toronto. I got a draw at home against Chicago, a win at home against New England, a win at home against Atlanta, and a loss to end the season at Nashville.
New York City's away, isn't it?
I don't think so.
No, it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I would say you're
I
making me
think
think.
I might have looked at something else. I don't know what I looked at.
All right, does that change your thought?
It does. I would drop that down to a draw.
Interesting.
So that puts them on 11 points from these last 6 games and finishing on 63 points.
Hmm. I might have just shaken things up over there. How
You did. I think they actually moved around places a little bit.
how exciting. I agree with you in a lot of this. Okay. So I've got a draw away to New York City, I think playing on the baseball field, and NYC's red hot right now. I mean, they're just on a tear. And at that point, they will still be missing Luis Suarez as well, and they're going to be in this mix of a lot of games in a short amount of time. So I've got a draw there. TFC struggling, just want to get out of the season. They're done. Miami wins there. Chicago, enough with your draw. All right, that's nonsense. Don't give me any of that garbage. You know what the narrative needs to be to play out, so stop with that. This is going to be a Miami win. New England is under an interim manager. They're already on their way out. I think Miami gets a win there. Atlanta, dumpster fire, maybe the worst team in the league ever. They can't win on the road. They're already out. Miami gets an easy dub there. And I also have a loss at Nashville because they are disgustingly good at home.
All right, we were
So
almost on the same page, almost
yeah, what is
fully.
that? That
But
gives
you're a
me
Greg Berhalter hater, so you know I know it's the Euro snob in you. You just can't.
yeah. Something like that. Trust me, you're gonna love my lead into the
Oh
Chicago
boy.
conversation. But that gives them 13 points out of their last six games for me, ending them on 64, 65, 65. Then we move to Orlando. They are on 51 points with four games left, and like everybody else, like we've been mentioning this whole time, which is the craziest part about this whole thing, is one good result, and they're probably, relatively they'll make the playoffs with a win, but a couple of good results and they're pushing for the top four. If they don't and they start to slump, they might be in the play-in game by next week. Like it's insane to think. And their run-in is not easy. They go to FC Cincinnati and then they have two home games against Columbus and Vancouver before they finish it away at Toronto. Give me your thoughts on their last four.
So Orlando for me, I've got them losing it at FCC. I think FCC is just going to be too tough of an opponent. Still plenty to play for them, so they're going to be trying. Then I think at home for both Columbus and Vancouver, I've got a draw for them. I think home field advantage gives them a little bit of a leg up over the other two, but I think Columbus has everything to fight for still in terms of a home playoff game. So I think they're going to be up for the challenge in that one. Vancouver, everything to play for the Shield. They've had a spectacular season. I'm sure they want to, they don't want it to fall apart at the end in the last few games. But obviously, Orlando is a solid team as well. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup for both sides. And then I think on the final day, there's always some weird stuff that goes on the final day. I think this is going to be one of them where they trip up a little bit at TFC and only come away with 1 point. So I've got them on 3 points out of their last four games and finishing on 54 points total.
That's ridiculous. You're that's that I could see the hater in you. I could see it.
You can't
Um,
see anything. I'll turn my camera off again.
yeah, I've got FCC winning that game as well. I think it's first off, I think it's gonna be a great game. I think it's gonna be a really, really good game between an Orlando team that is pushing for the top four and a Cincinnati team that's trying to win the Shield. I think this is going to be a very good game, but I think Evander and Denke take over Orlando on this one. Columbus are in the worst form of any team coming into this final stretch of games, and they are now missing both Diego Rossi and their newest signing Abu Ali, who went down with an ankle injury just earlier this week. Orlando's at home. It's not an easy place to play. I think Orlando gets a win here. Vancouver at home is big, especially if they try to make up games on the back end. They're going to have a condensed schedule and then a cross country trip. But I do think that there's enough quality there for them to get a draw against Orlando, so I get a draw in that game. And TFC loses this even though they're at home, so I give a win there. So that's 7 points for me, ending on 58. But I think the combination of Ojeda and Pasalic and that whole attack that they've got going is really, really dangerous. And in transition, they'll be successful. On paper, this is a tough run in. I think FCC is going to play them hard. I think Columbus is not as good as people think they are right now, and I think Vancouver is going to be kind of in the middle where they're balancing getting ready for playoffs if they're not in the Shield conversation by this point, right? If they're out of the Shield conversation now, it's a different story. So we then move to Nashville, who could easily host a play-in game. They could be back in the playoffs properly. I mean, they're on 50 points with just three to go. And that is what's holding them back right now from being, in that conversation of the best, right? They've had a couple bad losses or bad results that have kept them just on the outside looking in. So not only do they need to win all of their games, but they need a little bit of help. They've got Houston at home, they've got Montreal away, and they've got Miami at home, which we've already both spoken about, and we both said that they're going to win that game. So there are two games left to talk about here. What do you got going for Houston and Montreal?
Yeah, so Nashville's another team that's not exactly coming into the best form. With that being said, I think their schedule for the rest of the season is easy enough that they can get results in all three games for me. So I've got them winning at home against Houston. I've got them winning at Montreal. I think, as you've probably mentioned or will mention, Montreal, their season's toast. They're at this point just, I guess, trying to fight to not be the wooden spoon. And then we talked previously before about Miami, but I've got Nashville winning that one as well. So I've got them taking 9 points out of their last three games, which would put them on 59 points to end the season.
Put her there, buddy. We did it. Um,
Careful not to smack my camera too hard. I might
yeah,
unplug
you're
it.
gonna disconnect it. Um, no, this is tricky, right? So I do think that they're gonna win out. I think they're gonna go win, 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 59 points. However, I don't think it's gonna be a walk in the park, right? I think Houston's gonna be tricky for them. They need to get points to get in the playoffs. They're gonna be going, all out, but they're bad away from home, and Nashville's really good at home. So I think that they win this just based off of location. Montreal, they're actually not bad. I watched them against Red Bull. They're not terrible. They just can't score. They put the ball in the front of the goal and nothing happens. Genuinely, it looks like a bunch of people who have never played soccer before once they get into the opponent's 18. Building up, they look unbelievable. The second they get into the attacking third, it's like, what is soccer? Which is crazy. Nashville, on the other hand, I don't know if you know, very good in front of goal. They got this guy Sam Surridge, um, kind of like almost winning the Golden Boot right now, and they're not very good defensively, Montreal. So I do think Nashville takes this, and we already talked about Miami. So both of us have them winning out, which is very exciting. Let's then talk about Columbus, who is a team in absolute free fall right now. The opposite of how you want to get into the playoffs, if you will, right? You always talk about hottest team, don't want to face them. Well, this is a Columbus team that is going in ice cold. Nancy ball is being figured out. And the problem with it is that it relies on the very skilled players that they had to be successful. And with a ton of injuries, including Diego Rossi and Abu Ali, it is just not working. This could be a really bad few matches for Columbus because in their last three, they have to go to Chicago, they have to go to Orlando, and they have to play Red Bull at home. What do you got?
So I have got a draw at Chicago. Not sure how confident I feel about that one, but I think I still believe in Wilfred Nancy to be able to get results out of this team. I mean, regular season wise, this team is usually, I mean, not as low as they are right now, but they're not as dominant as they normally are when it comes to the playoffs. But that's kind of what I mean. I feel like Wilfred Nancy knows how to get the most out of this team when it's crunch time and it's meaningful games, and every game right now is meaningful for the rest of the season. So I think they can get a result out of this one and get a draw at Chicago. We talked about the Orlando game before. I've also got them getting a draw in that one. And to complete the trifecta, I've got a draw at home against Red Bull to end the season. So I've got Columbus getting a draw in each of their last three games, also getting 3 points to end the season and finishing up on 53 points.
That is very, very crazy. However, not the most crazy. I also have a draw at Chicago because Chicago can't play at home for whatever reason, and Columbus just aren't clicking at the moment. So, immovable force versus unstoppable object, right? Draw.
Those are definitely choice words to use for those two situations. It's like
Uh,
very movable force, very stoppable object.
um, and then at Orlando, we talked about already. I had a loss there as well. And then Red Bull on decision day, a game I may be at, depending on how all this plays out, is going to be a loss because I don't watch Red Bull lose at home or when I'm in person, I should say. So um, I've got them on 1 point in their last three, finishing at 51. Is it enough to get in the playoffs? Let's talk about Chicago, the team everyone loves to hate. And listen, I'm not one to welcome all the hate watchers and the trolls and the USMNT haters who are wishing for Chicago's downfall just because GGG, Triple G is in charge. But right now, we need all of that negative energy directed to his big bald head. And we need it directed towards Chicago for the sake of the New York Red Bulls. Because with 45 points, they've got four to go. It is a race to see who can get into the final spot. Red Bull really can't catch anybody else except Chicago or Columbus if they really do as poorly as we think they're going to. But that's the longest shot. So in their last four, they get Columbus at home, which we've talked about. They get Miami away, we've talked about. They get Toronto at home, and they get New England away. Let's go through Columbus, you said was a draw. Miami, you said was also a draw. Weird. Toronto and New England, what do you got?
Yeah, Chicago's a bit of a weird team coming in. They seem to be very hit or miss on results. Probably shouldn't have gone for the double draw considering they have one draw in their last 8 games. They just go for
Okay.
broke. I got to appreciate that from my Triple G legend, but I've got them winning at home against Toronto. As you talked about, Toronto, pretty much nothing to play for at this point. Just hit the reset button for next year, maybe play some kids, get them some game time. And then, maybe to give you a glimmer of hope, on decision day at New England, another one of these trip up games for me. I think they lose that one.
Mm.
It's one of those weird ones where they're getting a flip result. I know they won at home against New England. It looks like it's a tight score line, but I think at New England, New England finds a way to get something out of the last game of the season, even though they have nothing to play for. And Chicago, for me, will then end up with 5 points and finish on 50.
That's weird. That means that you think Red Bull's winning out to make it into the playoffs. That's crazy.
You got me.
Um,
You got my notes up?
yeah, must have. I already said that Chicago Columbus was a draw. I've already said that Miami Chicago was a loss. Toronto and New England, two teams, season's over, right? But what do we talk about without this idea of relegation, right? What's the point of the end of the season? It's to find form and get yourself ready for the next season. Toronto, they're going to Chicago. Chicago, not good at home. We keep talking about this. They don't perform well. They're a road team, right? Toronto's going to come in and say, listen, let's get together. Let's put in a good performance. Let's show the gaffer that we belong in the team. Let's play for our jobs. They're going to get a draw here. It's going to be a tough one, but it's going to be a draw.
Oh my God.
And then New England, of all teams, they got the interim manager. Caleb Porter's gone. The negative energy, the aura, if you will, for the way the kids say it these days, is out. They get to play with freedom. They get to play with happiness and enjoyment. Carlos Heel playing in front of all of his international fans watching him play. They're going to clutch up on the last day. They're going to get hot and win one to build momentum into the 2026 season. This is also a loss. I've got them finishing on 2 points with 47 total.
That was Olympic levels of hurdles that you just jumped over to try and get Red Bull into the playoffs. That was insane. That was actual ridiculous logic. Some of the
How do
most
you know I'm
ridiculous
putting Red
logic.
Bull in the playoffs? Maybe this is it. Maybe it's over.
I listen, I you keep going back to this narrative that Chicago are like a horrible team at home, but they did beat Red Bull at home. So
Yeah, and so does everybody else. You know how many wins Red Bull have on the season on the road? Two, and one of them
why
came
would
from
I know
Montreal
that? Why would I know that?
because you're supposedly no ball, but obviously you don't because
Chicago has won 3 of their last 5 at home and have been unbeaten in 4 of their last 5 at home. So I don't know where this narrative is that you're making up to try to find a way to get Red Bull in the playoffs. You can look for who asked is all that you want.
I'm
I
looking
don't
for who
care if
asked because
you
I
asked.
didn't ask. I
I don't
did not.
care if you asked.
I don't want to know, nor do I care.
I'm just telling you.
What I'm going to tell you is that we need to take all that negative energy that we were harnessing, you and I together, for Chicago, and we need to take whatever positive is left and send it to Red Bull. Just ship, ship, ship all the way over to Red Bull because the playoff streak is on the line, guys, and we need to manifest some magic over here. They had multiple disappointing results. Chicago, New England, DC, all the teams that we were supposed to beat, we couldn't do it, right? And with 3 games left, we're on 43 points. We've got New York City at home, we've got FCC at home, and we've got Columbus away. Now, we've already talked about Columbus. You and I both have them winning, right?
Nope.
What do you have, Columbus?
I have a draw.
Oh, well, I think you just misspoke there. But anyways, talk to me about the Hudson River Derby and talk to me about FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, so you got a tough schedule to end the season. And your only saving grace is the fact that all 3 of these games are home games. However, NYC, as you talked about, in great form coming in. They look to be very strong. It's a rivalry game, so does form matter as much? I'd probably say no. I think a rivalry game is just a complete crapshoot. And based on that, I think it's going to be a draw. I think Red Bull get something out of a game they probably shouldn't get something out of. Then you got FCC. Realistically, I should say nothing here. You get nothing because FCC are significantly better than Red Bull. But because, again, you're home, I'm giving you a crumb here and saying that it's going to be another draw. So I've also got Red Bull on the Columbus route of drawing their last three games, getting 3 points, and finishing on 46, officially ending your annoying playoff streak.
Oh, you're again, you just don't know ball, and that's too bad. But we'll tell you how this is really going to go. The New York City is going to be a draw. We're at home. City are good, but they're on the this is going to be the last game in their like 6 games in 17 days sort of stretch. They're going to be tired. They'll be up for it, but we're going to be able to catch them at the right time. Realistically, this could be 3 points, but I'm not that crazy. So I'm going to give them a draw because we're good at home and we're going to be up for the derby, right? FCC at home, I also feel like is a gettable point for us. However, FCC are so good on the road. I think have they hit 10 wins this year, I think. I believe that's true. Yeah, 10 wins on the road this year. It's tough to play them away. And that just is a mark of a good team. Denke and Evander are very, very good. And we don't perform well against those top teams, right? So I have us losing FC Cincinnati. And as we spoke about, against all odds, the New York Red Bulls, who cannot score on the road, let alone win games on the road, are going to dig deep against a down bad and struggling Columbus side, missing all of their stars through injury, and clutch up a win in the final game to get us to 50 points, hop the Chicago Fire, and play Columbus away again in the play-in game. That, my friends, is how this is going to work.
I didn't know you were a gymnast.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
That's crazy.
So I think not much changes in terms of the final standings. You're going to have Miami making the playoffs, and we didn't do the teams that have already made it either. So it's a little tough to figure out where they're going to stay. I know you might have. I know you were talking about doing that, but I did not. So do you want to give your thoughts? I think the only thing that matters here is that Chicago is not going to make the playoffs. The Red Bulls are, and it'll be Chicago. It'll be Chicago out, Red Bull Columbus in the play-in game.
I did do every game that's left in this season so far. So I'll just run through my whole standings. I got Philly. I'll go one to 15. I got Philly, FCC, Miami, Charlotte, Nashville, NYC, Orlando, Columbus, Chicago, Red Bull, New England, Atlanta, Toronto, DC, Montreal.
Do
So
you know how much it hurts, by the way, that I need to sit here and root against the Chicago Fire, I have had making the playoffs for the last 6 years, and sit here and say no, they won't because Red Bull need to make it. Do you know how bad that hurts me inside?
you've lived long enough to see yourself become the villain.
That is perfect. That is perfect. Now we get to the interesting part because as we mentioned, the Western Conference still has so many teams in it. It is not as strong as the Eastern Conference. However, that means that a lot of teams are still in it for those bottom spots. So we are still looking at 9 teams involved: Seattle, Austin, Portland, Colorado, Dallas, or Dallas, depending on who you ask. Houston, San Jose, RSL, and St. Louis all are still in it with a semblance of a chance to make it into the final playoffs. Oh man, this is going to be tough. As you know, our ball knowledge for the East is pretty good. Our ball knowledge for the West, we very
Is
rarely are
doubly
good.
good.
We're very rarely good in these moments.